By now, you've probably seen somebody generate a decent amount of wealth on the internet through trading cards. And you might be wondering, if you're anything like me, which you're probably smarter and more well-equipped for these types of things, you're probably wondering how you can go about doing something similar. You might be thinking about investing in trading cards right now. And today we're going to talk about just kind of like the logistics behind all of that and how you might be able to maximize the benefit for yourself in that way or otherwise. So a lot of people right now are generating a substantial amount of wealth through trading cards by selling them. So either one of two things has happened. Either one, they had a massive position of, say, sealed products or graded cards or raw singles even prior to this boom, and they have since sold them or have begun selling them now. Now, they could either keep their money in the hobby by continuing to churn or reinvest that capital elsewhere like the stock market. And as a matter of fact, back in the COVID boom, which started vintage and then spread over to modern, which is basically like the bookend to this boom that we're seeing right now, a lot of people, I come back to this video all the time for some reason. So Pokemon Radar, now just Radar, as seen on the Off Center podcast. He used to have this podcast called Collectors with Cards and Coffee or something like that. There's a lot of C's in the name, I remember. But he had this guy on that was a collector that predated me, and he had this massive position in Wizards of the Coast PSA 10s. And I remember in that video, he had talked about how he sold a massive chunk of his collection, particularly some first edition base set PSA 10s, in a like payment plan based deal. And he was like receiving payouts for it, and he didn't hit exactly the market peak. However, he was very happy with the amount of money that he generated. And he had discussed how he was reinvesting all of that into the stock market, and that the dividends that he produced from his positions in various ETFs or single stocks could actually generate him a decent living. And it hit me at that moment like, oh, there's more going on with this Pokemon card stuff than what I had realized. And a similar thing has happened in other TCGs as well. And I saw some people that had like, maybe smaller positions, but they turned their capital or their realized gains into a functional business where they continue to churn or generate margin over that same time. And a couple people come to mind, but I name drop a lot on this channel. And so I'm going to try my best to refrain from that further, seeing as I've already done it once. So the thing about that is, the dude that I just referenced had all those PSA 10s prior to the boom. He decided to take all of his money out of the hobby and put it into like traditional investments. I've also seen people that have kept their money in, as just described, and grow really big businesses. And what they have not exclusively done is invest. As a matter of fact, some of the biggest investing content creators, particularly in the Pokemon space, they didn't just start off by investing in cards. They will admit, and have spoken about it at length on their channels, at least the ones I'm thinking of, that they were flipping cards to generate the margin that made them confident enough to continue doubling down on their investments over time. Another key idea here is a lot of the people that are turning cardboard into cash right now had the cardboard and are now getting the cash. And so if you are going from cardboard to cash right now, you're probably in the green. But if you're going from cash to cardboard right now, I'm going to talk to you about why that might not be exactly the best idea in the way that immediately jumps to mind. And I'll start off by saying, I see the appeal behind investing in trading cards, and I've seen a lot of people be successful in doing that. So I'm not just speaking down to the idea at large, I'm just speaking down to the timing of it currently. So if you are buying all the things that other people are actively getting rich off of, the opportunity for you to generate wealth on those same items is slimmer than what their opportunity is. By example, if you are buying a bunch of Destined Rivals booster boxes at $500+ right now, which I'll start off by saying I like Destined Rivals a lot. When we talk about all the things that people were discussing in like the 2020 or 2021 boom, they were talking about set identity. Well, Destined Rivals has arguably the strongest set identity in the block, because it's not just thematically based around a particular Pokemon, it's thematically based around a huge subgroup or like the entire villain like structure side of that IP. And so when it comes to things like that in particular, I do see the upside in Destined Rivals. It has good chase cards that are not super easy to pull of popular Pokemon. Destin Rivals is a little bit easier to grade than some of like the earlier S&V era sets. However, it's still not like a slam dunk every single time. But when we take a look at a product like Destin Rivals, which is a cool set as I've just described, you have my thoughts on the set. Well, right now there's a lot of people that got into those booster boxes via cases or otherwise at or close to like wholesale distribution pricing. And so those people are making a lot of money right now because that product is selling for like 5 times the amount that it was when they initially got their hands on it. And so if you're considering plowing all your money into the boxes that they have just 5x'd on, then you have to kind of just like take a step back and think strategically about this. Okay. You should be considering buying things when they are low in price in order to optimally invest for the sake of your return, which is ultimately what investing is. You are trying to establish a position in a particular item or asset, hold it until its value is greater than what you got in at. Okay. Therefore, the cheaper you get in on something, the better your upside potential becomes. The counter to that is the more expensive the higher your cost basis is on a particular item, you then carry a greater downside risk. Okay. This is just kind of like basic economics, and I'm not saying anything that's groundbreaking to you. But the thing that I'm doing right now, I first of all, I know so many people that have made a lot of money off of investing in trading cards just like you have, particularly sealed boxes. And a lot of people with way more money than me are doing it too. However, they have way more money than me, right? And a lot of that comes from them getting in the hobby prior to me and having those positions before the market boomed, and then reestablishing their positions when the market cooled off. And then now that it's booming again, they're selling off on those positions, right? And if they're continuing to accumulate, they are operating at the wholesale level, which means they're getting access to those same products for cheaper. And so my caution to anyone watching this would be just keep that in mind. I mean, it's just, you want to maximize your upside. And so if you're buying into an expensive item, your upside inherently cannot be as high as people who are buying cheaper items, right? They're the same item at a cheaper price. And so you have to kind of be mindful of who your competition is and where your competition stands and what action your competition is taking right now. And so that's just kind of like my insight on the matter. Though that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. You're not an idiot for interacting with trading cards. I had a big position in terms of inventory prior to this boom in 2025 because I continued to operate in the space after the market cooled off and, dipped and stagnated for a while. And so when the market really kicked up, I had a lot of items that were way more valuable than what I bought them for just because of the trajectory of the overall market. And I continue to operate that same way right now because the fact of the matter is, like, my working capital has not reached its limit in terms of just my churn. And I'm selling a lot of items every single day. Like, there is almost no days right now where I'm not taking like 5, 6, 10, 15 packages to the post office. And that's not even that much. I'll say, like, there are people flipping at a much higher scale than I am, but it's like I continue to churn because I know that that works. If you buy a raw card at market price or below market price, ideally, because you're buying in substantial quantity or you have a good relationship with somebody or whatever, and then you grade those in PSA 10, they're going to sell for more money than you're into them. And so for me, I like to produce that margin right now in an actionable way. And yes, that takes more time than just passively sitting a booster box on a shelf and waiting for it to appreciate. But if we look at the cost of like a Destin Rivals box, by example, it's like $500, right? And so if you put that $500 on your shelf and that's your entire bankroll, you have to wait likely years for that to actually appreciate to a price where you're going to be able to sell it after frictional fees and shipping and profit at the end. Whereas if you start with that $500 and you just begin to churn money through flipping or otherwise, I mean, I'm not saying that's the only option. Maybe you start like a service-based business or whatever too. But like, you're going to be making way more money in the short term than you would by just letting that booster box collect dust. Now, the drawback is you have to take action, which means that you're doing things. You can't just passively sit by and wait for something to happen. However, I know from experience that if you start with an amount close to $500, you can turn that into way more money pretty quickly. Right now, the greatest limiting factor would be like turnaround times. If we're talking about like a grade buy sell operation, well, the $45 tier value plus at PSA, right now it's taking somewhere around like, I don't know, 3 months, generally speaking, to turn around. I think that all of my November orders that I shipped off, I got back throughout the month of January. My December orders, I'm beginning to get back now. Okay, so there's about a 3-month delay, and it's $45 a card. That means that a lot of cards, first of all, are excluded from that possibility just because there's not a $45 margin to be had on like low-end cards. So inherently, you have to be buying higher amounts or buying higher value cards. That does diminish your ability to churn at volume. So you're working at a lower volume because you have limited capital. However, I'm going to just, if I have $500 in my pocket right now, what I'm doing is not buying a Destined Rivals booster box. Even though I think it's a great set and that it will do good long term, what I'm doing is I would go out and look at a local card show and find the coolest, cleanest alt art that I could get my hands on that has the highest chance at getting a PSA 10, and I'm sending it off at the $45 tier. And so maybe what that looks like with shipping in mind and stuff like that, maybe I buy like a $400 card, and there's a lot of those available. A lot of the Evolving Skies alt arts, by example, are at like $400 so dollars. You could even get like the chase card from Destined Rivals, the set that we're talking about today. You can get the Team Rocket's Mewtwo for about $400 to $500. If you find a very clean copy and send that off to PSA, what are the PSA 10 selling for right now? Like $1,100? That's 3 months. You're turning $500 into a gross of $1,100. And you can do the simple math on that, right? Like you can calculate your cost of goods, the cost to grade that card, the cost to ship it to PSA. Maybe you just sell it on PSA's platform so you don't have to pay return shipping. You vault it and sell it through them. But it's like you're going to almost double up your money in 3 months instead of several years. And so for me, that seems like the obvious play because you want to be then taking that money that you got and buying 2 or 3 alt arts that you can do the same thing with. And when you get those back, you can buy 5 or 6 alt arts and then 10 alt arts and then 20 alt arts, and you're growing that money. And then if we get to the point where like Destined Rivals boxes, let's say they stop appreciating, let's just be generous and say they plateau in the short term. Well, then over the course of like, let's say 6 to 9 months, you have like quadrupled the amount of money that you have access to within the hobby, and you can buy way more Destined Rivals booster boxes. And then they can do a lot more for you whenever it comes time for them to appreciate, right? It's easier to make a substantial amount of money off of a substantial amount of money than it is a small amount of money. And so the thing that keeps me from investing in sealed product is I just don't have that much money. I mean, I'm spending 5 figures a month on trading cards, and like, it's so weird because I feel like this hobby definitely like distorts your perception on the value of a dollar. Like let's say even just $10,000. That's like the lowest 5-figure amount. That's a lot of money. Just as a matter of fact, like if you go to a local community college, that's probably like your entire tuition to get your degree. $10,000 gets you like a functional vehicle. Okay. Those are the types of things that $10,000 gets you. A roof on a small house, right? That's not a small amount of money to have. But when I compare the amount of money that I'm spending every month to like people that are scaled higher than me, they're churning like 6 figures a month. And the thing is like, if they were to invest all of their buying power into sealed products, well, they would net a much greater return whenever that time horizon, fulfills itself, where those boxes become profitable to them. So it's harder for me to compete in that way. But there's not a lot of people who have 6 figures worth of buying power that are going to the local card shows that I hit up and competing against me for raw gradable singles. And so for me, that's like my advantage within this space, and I'm able to grow my bankroll so much more efficiently. And by that, it means like a greater amount in a shorter amount of time than what I can personally realize in sealed product at this time. Okay. And so that's just kind of my thinking behind this. And so whenever the conversation of like investing in product comes up, if you're a person who has an immense amount of cash ready to go, ready to be deployed right now, and it's just kind of sitting in a savings account anyways, maybe investing in sealed product is what you want to do. Keep in mind all of my initial points in the beginning of this video with that in mind. However, it still might not be the dumbest thing for you to do, like, honestly. However, if you are limited in capital, in working capital, you don't have that much money, you need to grow the amount of money that you have so that if you want to entertain the idea of investing in Pokemon cards, you can maximize your return. It's easy, when they say the rich get richer, what that means is your access to wealth increases with the more wealth that you have. And that's just kind of like my thought process through all this. I don't inherently discourage anyone from investing in sealed products in Pokemon or elsewhere, but I just think it's not always the optimal thing for you to do in order to maximize returns. And I think that's it's kind of a hot take, and everyone has their own opinion on output and their ability to work, and everybody thinks that they're super limited on time. And I get that. Establishing a volume-based business is more work and does take more time than just sitting a booster box on your shelf, but not by that much. Most of the time spent is just waiting. And you're actually waiting a lot less by reselling. 3 months is less than 3 years. That's fact, right? And so that's just kind of my 2 cents on the idea. I don't think that investing in product is dumb. I know a lot of people who've become millionaires based on doing that. However, I think that based on my awareness of most people's net worth or amount of working capital, I just think it's not the best choice for them at this time. So I'd love to hear your opinion on the matter down below. Be sure to hit all the positive buttons on your way down to the comment section. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.